Well, it's referred to external walls and shelters now referred to designated growing areas. And the reason for that is during December events, rear elevation of the if they wanted to smoke outside smoke, they went outside into so we'd expect that they'd show that was part of the management plan.
Yeah, that's great. Oh yeah, you're right.
Not too bad yourself?
Yeah, good back.
Still stopped there.
Hello, you're right. Good, good. Yeah.
Looks like we've got some extra technology. But still using paper, which is a bit counterintuitive, I think, but it is what it is. All right, mate, how are you? I'm good. Yeah, good do. Good do. Are you still using the paper? Are you still using the paper notes? Because did they not say like everything was supposed to be going digital? Saving paper, going green.
So when you're hemorrhaging or highway, did you get the email about speed key?
Yes, when you're calling forward, we have
Yeah.
5 minutes. Yeah, thank you.
What are you complaining about?
All I'm talking about is
Alright. Well, it's retrospective, isn't it? So they've already done it, haven't they? So. Right, yeah. Well, that's not fair, is it? Well, it's. I suppose it comes down to how much Hyman Planning got paid to put it through, isn't it? Really, I mean, not how much. Sorry. That's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. What I meant was how much the surveys and things cost.
We know what you mean.
Them surveys that cost a lot of money that then they just ignore them surveys. They're not going to make a rebuild it though, so.
Oh no,
We don't want that.
No, you just want to adhere into the actual what they've passed, don't you? Really.
We're not going to shut them down. We just want.
the business to run.
Well, no, that's.
We just want changes.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, like I say, you should work cohesively with your neighbours, shouldn't you? I just, I'm a prospective councillor.
Oh, so you're coming to see what's what?
Monster Raving Looney Party, though, I might not win. I'm not joking, they're the only.
Well, I'm not
Don't do
funny.
it, that, alright?
I'm not being funny. There's
well.
so much to choose.
Well, there you go. But that's the only party that will actually legally have me. Last year I was an independent, but I only got 62 votes, and everybody cheated. So this year I'm going to go with an actual party, albeit Munster Raving Looney Party.
72 votes.
Well,
Screaming Lloyd's thoughts.
Screaming Lloyd Thoughts, yeah,
that's
unfortunately
right.
he's dead
We're
now,
gonna
but
top that. Yeah, he is,
that's
isn't
right,
he?
yeah.
Yeah.
That's me.
You always brought a bit of gaiety to the proceedings.
And well,
didn't you?
I will be this year too, and the general. I'm going to go in the general as well.
Fair enough. Wait, what ward are you going to vote for? It's council.
Well, for councillor for Netherton,
Oh yeah.
and for Hindman and Haslington for the MPs.
Yeah.
Netherton's Grace Howard. So they have Overton and Netherton. So in Overton I got 62 votes last year as an independent, and this year I'm going to see how many I get as a Munster Raving Looney Party guy. We'll see.
Keep my eye on for you.
Yeah, well, you won't be able to miss me. I was arrested 15 times last year. I was the one that went round Accrington with a megaphone. Yeah, that was me. As a candidate in the council. But hey ho. I gave everybody a donation, 50 quid. Well, actually, I gave all the parties a £66 donation. They didn't declare it. That means they cheated. So this year, I can say, oh, you cheated last year, and you've got to be able to stand against me this year. Happy days. Of course there is. Of course there is. I created a company specifically to do it. I followed the rules to the letter. Nobody else did. Oh well. It's the thing about rules, nobody likes to follow them. What did you think of the Starbucks that are going to be opening in Accrington, in the Great Harwood? Yeah. Putting one next door to Aldi. Well, I mean that's going to a planning meeting next week, so they're not definitely putting it there, but you know they passed it in 2015, Mike. So Counties will pass it again. Oh, look, Simon Purdue. He honestly, not the brightest spark in the old. I mean, like he basically allowed Onward Homes and Keynote to build 400 houses in Great Hall. They're not even on the local plan. They're not even featured on the local plan. And he submits the local plan. Go figure. You know, you think you put your own houses on there, wouldn't you? He's not very well though, is he, Simon, at the moment? He's a bit under weather. Yeah, I think he's had mental health problems. I think so, yeah. I think when they put the local plan in and the council, the government knocked it back because they didn't do a feasibility study. Basically, going to take another year to do. I think it knocked him over the edge. Or maybe it didn't. It should have knocked him over the edge. I mean, everybody else put their local plans in, but Simon didn't because, well, Simon made a mistake. He made a boo-boo. He didn't do a sustainability report. Oh well. Poor Simon. Oh, hello, Miles. How are you? Yeah, I'm alright. Our beloved leader here. Look, well, ex-leader, obviously. Ex-leader. Well, so as yet. I mean, there's still time to come back in, isn't there? To be fair. I've heard you might be coming in as a Conservative. Is that would that be? That wouldn't be true, would it, Miles? You're not jumping.
There's always people speculating.
You're not jumping shit that much.
There's always speculation.
There is speculation.
I'm just enjoying myself.
I would as well, Miles. I would as well. I'd enjoy the notoriety. I explained on the internet how you were instrumental in bringing the levelling up money, even though they all deny it. But obviously we all know it's true. You know, they say Conservative, but it weren't. It were all you, man. I know it. They know it. Conservatives know it, which is why they want you, because they see cream rising to the top. I'm serious, Miles. I really do. I really do think you did well for our town. Your hands were tied a little bit, I suppose. I mean, you had your little blips, obviously. We all do, don't we?
Well, no one can get everything right.
They can't.
You know, I'm not God.
No. Well, you're not God, but certain other MPs believe that they might be, don't they? But we'll not go there. Oh, look, Noidad's over there. Oh, Noidad. Kimberley. Hey, they're all in for us, aren't they? I love it. I'm standing as a Munster Raven Looney Party this year.
Oh, yeah?
For Netherton. And in the general election also. Really, against, God, if that's what you want to call him.
All right, so
And Sarah, obviously. I don't know whether the Green Party's putting somebody up, they might do, but they're a bit for, well, like, they keep giving back donations that I keep giving to them, so, say they run on donations, and then when you give them £66.60, they give it you back. Except they forgot to declare it. Oh, what a shame, that's going to get them banned this year. Last 2 years, that keeps in your normals.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Planning committee. It's 3 o'clock now, so we're going to make a start. There's no fire drill planned, so if you should hear the fire alarm, if you'll exit the building, the door there, and go across to the skate park to muster there. There are some people who've registered to speak, but other than that, if you're sitting in the public gallery, your role is to observe. Those who have booked to speak, when it's your turn, I will ask you to come to the table and give you a 5-minute maximum speech. So, we'll go straight out. Yes, I'm going to take the 2 items on the agenda, the 2 applications, in the order that they're given. Sorry, did you want to say?
Sorry, I just wanted to say I was going to be filming the proceedings. I didn't want it to be a secret or anything.
Mr. Knighton, yes.
Doctor, thank you.
Sorry, Dr. Knighton.
Appreciate it.
Yes, I did check a while ago with the Director of Legal Services, Ms. Ellis, and the legislation is now that people, members of the public, are allowed to film.
Yeah.
For the duration of the meeting, we prefer that you didn't do any filming before the meeting starts or after it's finished, when people may be talking privately, but the duration of the meeting you have a legal right, as does anybody.
Well, it's a public place, isn't it? So I thought if they want to speak separately, they can go to a private place, can't
Yes,
they? Yeah, no problem, thank you.
So, yes, I'll take the agenda items in the order that they come, the 2 applications, because although some of you may have come for the Atkinson Stanley one, and that's the second item, that one could be longer in terms of discussion, so I think we'll take the one for the Burns Chambers first when we get to that. So I'll start with item 1 first, apologies for absence, substitutions, declarations of interest and dispensations. Any apologies, Mr. Callett?
Yeah, apologies for absence from Councillor Terry Hearn, and I've got Councillor Lorraine Cox substituting for him.
Yes.
Apologies from Councillor Paul Cox and Councillor Kimberly Whitehead, who's substituting for him. And apologies from Councillor Steve Button and Councillor Modad Aziz is substituting for him.
So we've got a full complement then of 13, yes, just so when it comes to counting for the votes, yes. So that's all the apologies and the substitution. Anybody with a declaration of interest at all? No. So we'll go to the minutes.
Sorry, Chairman,
Oh, sorry, Councillor Whitehead, yes.
Councillor Anderson, just like to declare a personal interest as I'm a member of Atkinson Stanley Supporters Club, and also that just I have an interest as well because I know one of the residents here we used to work together. So just wanted to let you know, but that won't obviously impact my.
So is that okay, Mr. Hoyle? That's
Of course,
personal interest, yes. Did you have your hand up, President Wilson?
Yeah, and I'm keeping your interest for the same rate for the
Yes,
standing
you're
one.
standing,
I'm a
supporters,
season
long
ticket
standing,
holder.
yes. Thank you, Councillor Aziz.
Just that I've attended many gigs, I think it's very big festival.
Right. Yes, well, thank you for declaring those then. It's always better to have things out in the open, isn't it? So even if you haven't pecuniary your interest.
Does that count, that? No, I don't.
So,
Going to a game, that doesn't count.
so we'll go to the minutes of the last meeting on pages 3 to 6. I did just notice this morning, Mrs. Collett, on the application for Mount St James 11230207, under the resolution, it has the names of 3 speakers, Janet Brown, Matt Highland and Michael Bryan. Now, it says that they all spoke against. Well, I think Michael Bryan might have been the representative of the developer and spoke in favour. Yes, I would have mentioned it before, but I've only just noticed it today. Yes, so the other 2 were against, but yeah. So that will be altered in the minutes, thank you. So other than that, I'll propose that these minutes be accepted as a correct record. Would anybody like to second? Yes. Councillor Cassidy, yes. All in favour of the minutes, those who were here? So now we go on to the two items. The first one is the one for the Burton's Chambers. So, are you presenting this, Mr. Prideaux, for us? Yes. I think if I just stand somewhere where I can see the screen.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. Burton's Buildings is located in the heart of Accrington Town Centre, opposite the Town Hall. I'm sure that members of the Planning Committee will be familiar with the building and will also be aware that the upper floors have been vacant for many years and there are only 2 ground floor units in use, one as a betting shop and the other a charity shop. The development of an office hub within Burton's Building forms a key part of the Council's Town Centre strategy that is being implemented through the Levelling Up Fund. Extensive consultation has taken place on the schemes that underpin the Town Centre strategy, and this is one of them. It is important to stress that the planning application before Planning Committee today is for external alterations and improvements to the building facade. Much of the building has historically been used for office uses, and those parts of the building that have been used for retail or betting office use benefit from permitted development rights that allow the building to be used as an office without the need for planning permission. Burton's Buildings is not nationally listed, but is locally listed and also within Accrington Town Centre Conservation Area. It's also opposite the Town Hall, a Grade 2 star listed building. No objection has been raised from the Council's Conservation Officer or from other statutory consultees to this proposed development. No representations have been received from members of the public. The applicant has submitted full details of the proposed elevational changes, a heritage impact assessment, a design and access statement, and a BAT survey in support of the application. The most significant aspect of the application are the proposed changes to the ground floor elevation. The current elevation facing Blackburn Road, Accrington Town Hall will be illustrated in the slides, and I'll go to those in a minute and I'll just go this through. Okay. It is proposed to install new frontages to the ground floor shop fronts in inverted commas, because it's going to change to an office, obviously, it's not going to be used as shops any longer. And the side elevations that complement the approach taken to market chambers and provides a contemporary aesthetic to this Art Deco building in a way that significantly improves its appearance on the town square. The design complements the existing fabric of the building and provides a consistent appearance to the ground floor. And again, we'll illustrate this through the slides. The key changes are replacement shop fronts, glazing and signage at ground floor, reinstatement of the historic shop fronts at either corner of the front elevation. And the important thing is where the betting shop is, they're going to actually put a curved corner in that reflects
Art Deco.
That reflects that on the other side where the charity shop is. Repair and replacement of upper floor windows where required. A single main entrance adjacent to the northwestern corner of the building. Addition of plant screens to the roof. I mean, there are some changes to the roof, but they won't really be seen from the ground. They're quite modest. And a recessed entrance to provide a focal point to the building and public square. The proposed materials are a new grey coloured shop front cladding to ground floor bays over the existing shop fronts, new grey metal trim frame to glazing bays, a new glazing frontage, and historic line of glazing reinstated with faceted glass panels, a new light grey coloured louvered metal plant screen, existing upstand to be taken down and replaced with new metal stall risers, and a kind of vertical manifestation to the glazing. These changes, as I said, are best illustrated through the photo montage that we'll have a look at on the slides. Whilst the key benefit of the scheme is that it will bring the building back into a beneficial use, that will bring people into the town centre, proposed changes are needed to facilitate the use of the building as an office.
We have phone switched off, what literally needs to go out since I think.
It is considered the changes are consistent with policy and will result in a significant improvement to the building and this part of Accrington Town Centre. For the reasons set out in the report, it is therefore recommended that the application is supported. I'll just turn to the slides. As I said, I think most members will be familiar with the location of John. It's outlined in red on this slide, in the town centre, on the square opposite the town hall, and also fronting Dutton Street and St James's Street.
Isn't the ownership of the back street in with the site, or is it still a public highway?
It's part of the site.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know whether it's a public highway.
I know that's when it's the wheel against the rubbish, anybody cyclists who want to use
Council
the
take
cycle
away a
park
road.
space, they're like doing that.
They never do that.
Probably a private access. I don't think it's part of the public highway.
Looks like it's on your plan there, though.
So there's some photographs of the building taken from St James Street. As you can see, the upper floors are vacant, and over the years they've slowly deteriorated.
Completely well rented.
That's on the corner, as you can see, charity shop and the rather sort of mixed frontages of disused shops. And there used to be a cafe there as well. And then, sorry, on the opposite end, there's
Do you not know how to switch your phone off or?
there's Betfred on the opposite side. You can see that corner that's missing in comparison to the other corner, which has a rather attractive kind of round glaze feature. These are the elevational drawings, so it's showing the consistent approach being taken to the different sections that comprise the what used to be the different shop fronts. So it's going to sort of bring those together in a uniform way.
So the entrance is, this is the St James Street end of the building then, isn't
Yes.
it? Where
Yes,
the
and the
entrance is proposed, yeah.
entrance just on the right hand side there.
Simon, from a symmetrical perspective, if you're looking directly from Town Hall, the entrance is up to the right rather than down the middle.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a bit off centre.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just going to be on the right hand side. That's the view from Dutton Street, so that's showing that rounded corner piece that's going to be reinserted. I think that represents quite a significant improvement actually. And again, the consistent approach to the windows.
What about that doorway that's covered by a rural structure that was the staircase up to the tax offices? Is that,
I don't think you're going to be able to get in there. It's
There's
going to be glazed.
that was the way to the offices upstairs, so the tax office was based over Burton for about 50 years.
The internal arrangements are going to be largely the same, but but they're not subject to this application because they don't technically need planning permission to make internal alterations. So this is from the design and access statement. So that's a view showing the view looking at the Betfred office. There's a colour one. Unfortunately, the design access statement doesn't really do it any favours because it looks all a bit grey, but the colour one is much better. There we are. That kind of shows the difference between the rather attractive Lancashire stone and then the white and then the grey underneath, and the way it then complements with the materials used in the town square, which is a natural stone, which is predominantly grey in colour. So you can see that there's an attempt to be made to sort of put store risers in, as well as the top piece where the shop front signage used to be, but do it it's obviously been done in a modern way that complements the old Art Deco design of the building.
So Simon, am I right in assuming there's only one entrance and the previous one was shop fronts with a separate entrance? That's going to be completely disappearing. So it's going to be the main entrance, and obviously everything flows from that main entrance.
The main entrance is on the front right, yes. I think there is another entrance round the side as well,
Okay.
to get to the upper floors.
And that'll be an entrance to the reception, won't it? It's some disabled organisations like the Accrington District Life Society have particularly made a point about disabled access as well,
There's-
haven't they? Yeah.
There are existing entrances to the building, both on Dutton Street and St James's Street, and there's no program to change that. So that's I'll leave it on this one because this is the slide which illustrates the changes most effectively, I believe. Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Oh, sorry. So we've got one speaker on this application, and that's Mr. Max Parkinson. Would you like to come to the desk, please? Thank you. 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'll just be brief. I mean, this is a culmination of many years of hard work by many people and also stakeholders. We have to go back some years when the council set aside £150,000 to start off bidding for levelling up money. Of course, more consultation was required and more money in funding. But the culmination is this is part of this 60 million which is coming to Accrington to actually invest in capital projects, regenerating buildings which have been neglected for many years, or increasing investments which the council is investing, such as the Market Hall. But Burton's Chamber is an iconic building, right in the heart of the town. It has been left in a state of disrepair for many years, and many people have wanted something doing with it. It's only been possible now making a bid to government for this to be regenerated. Some people were sceptical about the council's ability to bid for money. We have now delivered, well, the council has delivered that, along with engaging with many stakeholders in the partnership board. So it's really congratulations to all them. And of course the important part was making sure the MP was on board, because that was a critical factor with government. And of course it went through the Green Book to get the funding for us. But what Accrington now will be left with is a building which will be regenerated and take us into the next century, right in the heart of the town.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Miles.
Right, so discussion's open now to members. Would anybody like to make any comments? Councillor Dawson?
Doesn't seem, I always don't seem to saying much about it, Simon. I mean, you would hopefully it will eventually be occupied. Is could there be a possible problem with, or actually would they just have to find somewhere to park other than probably where everybody else is in the town centre?
No, I mean the site itself doesn't have any car parking, but in this case we're not considering the change of use of the building. We're only considering changes to the external alterations, which in themselves don't have an impact on parking. So the use of the building as an office is essentially established and could be done through permitted development. So in some respects, you know, the views of the Highway Authority on that would be irrelevant. But notwithstanding that, I think the view is that the building is in a town centre location, which means it's highly accessible, and where there's plenty of on-street car parking and off-street car parking in the immediate vicinity, within walking distance of the site. And I think it's important to stress that office developments in town centre are supported by national policy and local policy. And whilst in some cases it may be desirable to have car parking, in this case it simply isn't practical. There isn't space for cars.
I did. Sorry, I'll bring you in a minute, Councillor Whitehead. I did bring up the same point to Councillor Dawson at the chair's briefing the other day, because you and I are about the same age. And we remember when traffic went through on Blackwood Road, and you know, I was saying, well, park, and you know, it's all right, 16 cycling storage spaces, but how many people in reality will come on bikes. I also raised about safety, people walking across the town square once the cabins have gone, the market stalls. Because that one of those images that we saw, it still had the old road layout, whereas now, you know, you come up from Union Street up the side of the town hall, and then you sort of bypass the town square and go straight up St James Street, don't you? I think there are some bollards to make it safer for pedestrians. But as the Blind Society in particular raised concerns, I'd mentioned that. But yes, so as that was something that bothered me. But as Mr. Prideaux says, we're discussing the external alterations to the building, and you know its use is established. So that's what we'll be voting on today. Councillor Whitehead, sorry, I kept you waiting.
It's fine, Councillor Anderson just made the points that I was going to raise regarding highways, but also just to say that in the report it did say as well about the 16 spaces for cycles that have been added in as well, so just to say as part of moving forward,
Yes.
sustainable and greener.
I think the access to the cyclists, if somebody wants to store the bike there while they're working, I think that will be via that back street, and that's where the wheel bins will be brought out and linked into Dutton Street on Big Day. Yes. Okay, thank you. Anybody else like to say anything? I mean, I can't help but thinking about what that building did used to be like, and you know, people were doubting about whether it had been offices, but it was. I have checked since then, Barrett's Directory 1951, and it was not only the tax office, but it was also the canteen for Accrington Transport, i.e. where the bus conductors, of which there were many in those days, and drivers would have gone for the cup of tea, you know. So it did have those uses.
Remember the tax office too?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yes, there was a snooker hall, and it said Montague Burton. I was reading that heritage assessment. It said that was a feature of his stores, that you know, a teetotal snooker hall. I think that it did materialise, didn't it? And I think there was even talk of there being a dance hall once. Some of these companies, they provided facilities, didn't they, for the workers, you know, and yes, so it would be, you know, it is a lovely building basically, isn't it, you know.
Old Matt used to be behind the bar with his outstation, flash.
It has been sad to see these town centre buildings with inappropriate shop frontages in the conservation area, so if nobody else wants to speak, well, I'll propose that we accept the officer's recommendation for approval. Would somebody like to second that?
I'll second that, Chair.
Trustee Cassidy, thank you. Those in favour, raise your hands, please.
Well, that's unanimous, isn't it? I mean, anything Manny says goes through.
13, right,
Ooh, 13,
right, so
Never
that's
again.
unanimous, yes, thank you.
Because you're so good, Malcolm. You are so
So
good.
we'll move on now
You make a
to
good
the,
argument.
second item to do with the Atkinson Stanley.
Not talking to these.
Hospitality facility.
Not talking to these.
Are you presenting this one?
Yes.
I mean, near you.
I'll just go over there again.
Just to draw members' attention to the update sheet that's been circulated. It relates to the alterations to the wording of a number of the planning conditions. It was mainly to refine the wording of those conditions, and they've been sent through to the applicant and agreed with the applicant. So this is a retrospective planning application for the demolition of existing buildings, turnstiles, entrances and temporary buildings to the rear of the south stand, construction of new hospitality areas, supporters bar and a new high-level television gantry at the Crown Ground. The south stand is located adjacent to established residential areas and is accessed from Livingston Road. Planning permission was sought and granted in October 2020. The various changes to the south stand, which previously consisted of two elements, the seated stand and ancillary club facilities. Following the grant of planning permission, development took place at the application site and was found not to be in accordance with the approved plans. As originally granted, the supporters bar and the hospitality lounge were proposed to be located in the western section of the building. Within the eastern section will be the club shop, an office space, Then, access via dedicated players entrance will be players changing rooms, showering facilities and physio room. A new pitch side TV gantry was also proposed centrally within the stand. A building is now being completed at the site and contains a hospitality lounge known as 1968 Lounge and supporters bar known as Coley's. Whilst the building's footprint, scale and external appearance is not dissimilar to the development that was previously granted, the internal layout differs such that it represents a significant divergence from the previously approved scheme. It cannot be considered to be an implementation of the planning permission that was previously granted. The applicant is therefore applying for a retrospective planning permission in order to regularise the existing unauthorised development at the site. There's an increase in the supporters bar floor area from 240 square metres to 460 square metres. The hospitality lounge has increased from 297 square metres to 580 square metres. The previously approved scheme included the requirement to implement the build in accordance with acoustic specifications to reduce noise breakout and to ensure that the noise would not impact on the nearest residential receptors. This included specification for external wall construction and the installation of insulated cladding panels and a ceiling void in the roof. Unfortunately, the roof of the building that has been constructed at the site, and which this planning permission seeks consent for, fails to comply with these requirements. This application has been assessed based on what's been built. Subject to recommended conditions, there were no objections from statutory consultees. Objections have been received from 5 neighbouring residents. In terms of its design and appearance, the scale, size and external appearance of the building is not dissimilar to the previously granted building. It's been clad externally using materials that were approved as part of the previous planning permission. The building has replaced existing buildings of a dilapidated and temporary nature, resulting in a visual enhancement. Whilst the TV gantry has increased in size when compared with the previously approved scheme and is now more visually prominent, it doesn't appear as an unduly prominent addition when read alongside the adjacent development at the site. The main consideration in relation to this application is noise and disturbance generated by the use of the hospitality areas. Whilst the previous planning permission at the site was granted on the basis that a range of measures would be included in the build specification, the development hasn't been built in accordance with the approved details, the construction of the roof and ceiling being the most apparent departure. 1968 Lounge and Coley's Bar have been operating for a period of exceeding 18 months, during which time the Council's Environmental Protection Team has received numerous noise complaints, relating primarily to noise during the evenings. In October 2022, in response to ongoing complaints, the Council issued a noise abatement notice under the Environmental Protection Act 1990. The Council's Environmental Protection Team and planning teams have subsequently engaged a professional noise consultant, Anne Tucker, to provide a technical review of the submitted information and to carry out noise monitoring at the application site with the agreement of the applicant. Noise was surveyed on the evenings of Friday the 13th of October, the 14th of October and Friday the 1st of December. The technical report by Anne Tucker has now been provided to the Council. It recommends operational noise limits based on the separation distances between the venues and residential properties and the survey work that's been undertaken. Separate internal noise limits have been provided for both Coley's and 1968 Lounge, aimed at achieving acceptable internal noise levels within the nearest residential receptors to each venue. Some flexibility has been provided to permit slightly higher noise levels for entertainment noise associated with pre- and post-match day events. Planning conditions are recommended which restrict opening hours, set maximum noise limits for entertainment noise within the venues, and require the applicant to submit a noise management plan for approval. This document will set out a range of measures to ensure that noise and disturbance is appropriately managed. It will include details of sound limiters to be installed, which restrict the volume of sound amplification equipment within the venue, door management arrangements, facilities for smokers, and details of neighbour consultation and complaints procedures. The applicant will be required to operate in accordance with the agreed management plan. No objections have been received by Lancashire County Council Highways or any of the other statutory consultees. And it's recommended that the application be approved, subject to conditions, with delegated authority given to the Chief Planning and Transportation Officer to modify the wording of any conditions as necessary. We'll just go through
You've got some
the slide.
illustrations.
So you see the location plan there, the application site outlined in red, which is the south stand. Just to the south there you can see Livingston Road along the bottom of that image, and then to the west is Wally Road and the residential properties that back onto the south stand there. So this is the existing site plan. See the south stand there. Some further images of what used to be present at the site prior to the current development being completed. So for reference, this was the layout that was approved back in October 2020. So you can see there on the left hand side of the image there two spaces. One's a hospitality lounge and one's a supporters bar. The area to the right hand side there was used for offices, changing facilities and showering facilities. The layout that's now proposed and has been built seeks to utilise the entire floor area there as a hospitality lounge and supporters bar with a central divide. The entrance to the hospitality lounge on the left hand side is closer to Wally Road and the Wally Road properties, and the entrance to Corley's Bar, the supporters bar, on the right hand side is close to the rear of Livingston Road properties.
So those are the facilities then, the changing rooms and the offices and the shop. They are now in a separate building line.
They are.
Got permission for in 2021.
That's right. Yeah. They're joined to the corner of the east stand, the two-storey building that's now being constructed. So those facilities that were part of the original proposal have now been taken and included within that other development.
Right, yes.
So these are the elevations, or proposed elevations, or as-built elevations with composite cladding in club colours. This is the two-storey building there that just referenced in a matching cladding. So that's the entrance to the south stand. This is within the parking area to the rear of Livingston Road and Wally Road properties, looking towards the 1968 lounge. And looking the opposite direction there is the other entertainment venue, Corley's. And that's the view from the pedestrian access from Wally Road into the ground, looking in a easterly direction.
I was mentioning to you too before about smoking shelters. If somebody wants to have a smoke, obviously they have to go outside, don't they? So where will the smoking shelter be positioned, or where will people go?
An informal management arrangement was agreed during the December events with the Environmental Protection team, and part of that agreement was that smokers would access external areas through the internal facade that looks out onto the pitch.
Yes.
So they'd exit the venue on the opposite side that faces the residents, so they'll be distant from the residents. Within the recommended condition, the there is provision for the club to provide details around that arrangement in the management plan that they'd have to submit to the local authority for approval. That seems to have worked relatively well, judging from what I've had discussions I've had with the environmental protection team.
Yeah, because I can visualise that, yes, so they will be kept further away from the house. Where they have to go to smoke, they'd be further away from the houses, yeah.
So in effect, the emergency door that's near to Livingstone Road, is that going to be removed or permanently closed? Because that with the best of the world, that will be used.
There's no, the building that's being constructed at the minute is what is being applied for, so there are no changes proposed to take place to the building that's being built at the site.
The emergency door is causing a lot of distress to residents.
The emergency door being the main access door to Coley's,
It
isn't
wasn't
it?
on the original planning application.
Yeah, it's the main access to Coley's. That is shown on the plans that are now being sought approval for. The noise consultants that were engaged by the local planning authority, as I mentioned, carried out noise monitoring on 3 separate nights when events were running at both venues. So the noise limits that are specified in the conditions are based on what's going to be built.
So there's no
I appreciate
proposal to move that door.
there isn't no. I think there are concerns regarding people congregating around the doors there, and as part of the management plan that we would require the club to submit, we'd ask for door management details to be submitted to us in terms of how they're going to manage that going forward.
Okay, well, I think we better, sorry Councillor Pratt, I think we better allow the speakers to go now before we open up the debate generally. So we've got first of all Miss Linda Kennedy. Would you like to come to the desk, please? You've got 5 minutes. And you've already circulated some photos.
Sent some photographs yesterday, that's true. I just set a stopwatch, then I know when you're speaking. Right. These facilities, good afternoon ladies and gentlemen. These facilities have been open 22 months since March 2022 without planning permission. The number of people that these facilities will hold now totals 550, 300 in Corleys, which is extra to the plans. And right from the word go, they've had problems with noise. So much so, we asked Environmental Health to visit, and on the 28th of May, Paul Cox, Councillor Paul Waits came round. There was several visits then to collect data, and in November, the noise abatement order was granted. I considered both the venues, 1968 Lounge and Corleys Bar, with obviously regard to the noise abatement with public nuisances. And as such, I think that rather than having to establish a noise management plan, I think the planning should include conditions from Harbour Council licensing to determine how this should be run. Basically, letting Accrington and Stanley do their own management plan is a bit like letting them write their own homework. And one of the things I'd like to ask is why nobody's considered underdrawing ceilings in these facilities, packing them with insulation and soundproofing, rather than having it open to the top, because this is basically a metal box. Why not? That's not been considered. And the door, like Councillor Pratt said, has been moved 45 metres from where it was originally, 11.5 metres from the nearest back door. And on the pictures, as you can see, the picture that I sent you, there's a pair of doors in the middle which are a fire escape. Why can those doors not be flipped? And the door into Corleys be fire escape, and the door in the middle be the doors into Corleys Bar. Because it's a lot further away from people's houses, it's in further back from the apron of the car park, and as such will cause us less problems. Because it's okay keeping everybody in, but if 300 people come out of that at 1:30 in the morning, that's going to cause problems for residents, especially the ones whose houses are directly at the bottom of this. So, you know, that's just something I wondered why that's not been discussed. Has it been discussed and it's just been, you know, decided that's not going to be how it's going to go. I mean, like I said, the document just has light on detail. These smoking shelters, where they're going to be. The original agenda said that no drinking outside. What about the rest? The smoking, come out to smoke. The children have been using it for the car park as a playground. I'm not against children playing out, but a car park and a service road are not the kind of places where your children should be playing. So people need to be kept inside. But this door, as you say, causes a lot of distress because it's right at the bottom of people's gardens. I mean, they couldn't have moved it anywhere nearer to people's homes if they'd tried. And as for them saying about the forthcoming events, etc., and the complaints procedure, Dave Burgess emailed me on the 17th of July for a me list of forthcoming events, to which I replied and said yes. Never received it. On the 3rd of September, a function started at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and went on till 8 with a disco and a singer, and Karen Gettins, who is the events manager, was on site. And I rung her and told her that she was in breach of the noise abatement order, and her exact words to me were, "I'm sorry, you think it's too loud?" So is that Accrington Stanley's way of liaising with us? You know, they never tried to work with us, you know, so, you know, I've not much faith, to be perfectly honest. You know, this is dragged on because the council had all the information they require from Accrington Stanley at times. And also this thing about music after the match. I've lived there 33 years. It's the first 31 years you never have music after a match. And now they say it's part of the match day experience. Fair enough. But I don't see why I should have to listen to it. When the live acts are on, the music can be heard on the front of Livingston Road. In fact, during the tribute nights, it could be heard as far away as Riddlesdale Avenue. So, my view is, Accrington Stanley needs to make money. I don't have any objection to that, but I don't see why it should be the expense of the residents. You know, and it's right putting these conditions on, but the only people who have to police these conditions are the residents. If they breach them, you have to ring the council, email the council. And there's only one fault. For the rest of the time we live there, there should be more to this than just waiting it through and putting these conditions on, because I don't think it's enough. That I've had 5 minutes. Thank you. I think I've said everything I needed to say anyway.
Thank you very much.
Sorry for ranting on. I digress slightly. Never mind.
And now our second speaker is Mr. Miles Parkinson, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I mean, as the previous speaker has stated, that there has been issues at the club for a period of time, and I know when I was in a position in the council, I was approached regarding the matters. I mean, the issue is the football club is very important, and of course residents' living area is also very important. It's how to try and resolve this equation, and of course the football club have been engaged, and of course what is laid out in the report is for the council to look at that management plan and adhere to it, and of course regulations are there. People's views on noise are different depending whether it affects you or doesn't affect you. The important thing is that we do have a football club. The regeneration of the ground has been amazing. The chairman has invested and has made a promise to try and resolve the issues to the benefit of the residents. Hopefully that can be done with the management plan. Of course, it's whether the residents agree with that management plan or not, but that will be statutory. It will have to go through the normal environmental health and noise abatement and such like. But what has been achieved at the football club has been amazing. Of course, there is this issue. It has been ongoing for some time, and hopefully between the two parties there can be a successful resolution, and that is laid out in the planning document before you, hopefully.
Thank you. And our third speaker is the ward councillor, Councillor Paul Cox, please.
Thank you, Chair. And the planning committee, obviously. Chair, before I start, can I just hand out a printout, which is simply just the plans in front of you, but I've overlaid what was the proposed project with the new project.
Yes, okay.
So I think it's quite visually, I'm afraid we're going to have to share. I'll have to thank one of the residents actually for creating it. It was excellent. What's this time? I think it really does show what we're talking about here.
You mean the doubling of, I mean, I've picked up with the floor area of the two club facilities has doubled in effect the other facilities in the set building, yeah.
I think start. If everybody's had a chance to have a quick look at that. Oh.
I think you better start, Councillor Cox, yes.
Okay, thank you. Can I start by saying this isn't a witch hunt aimed at the football club located within this residential area. The residents who I'm speaking for here today have lived and existed with this football club for many years. They completely understand what it is to live so close to a football ground. They expect the inconvenience and they understand it. I mean, for example, it was only a couple of years ago, they were told almost overnight that all the parking had gone on Livingston Road, but they accepted that and moved on. What they're complaining about is this planning application. What I had to say is this club is attempting to obtain permission for one thing, then create whatever suits them depending on the market forces that affect them at that time. I was first asked to bring this planning application over 12 months ago. Since then, there are many reasons why it's not been heard. During this time, the residents have suffered abuse, both physical, mental, excessive noise, numerous antisocial behaviour incidents, none of which have originated from the operating of a football club, but from incidents and complaints raised about the ongoing programme of events within the 1968 Lounge and Coles Bar. Let's not misunderstand, this has occurred with the club not having the correct permissions to operate and find themselves trying to deal with the residents located within Livingston Road. All the community wish is the club take responsibility and deliver the correct standard that was originally asked for in the original plans. Like I say, in front of you is the plans where you can see what has been done and how it's been altered over this period of time and what we've actually ended up with. Not only do we have a completely different building, we are left with little or no sound insulation at all. In fact, the noise levels were that high, as was commented on by the officers. The Highland Borough Council's own environmental enforcement team issued a noise abatement notice. But did that stop the club? No. They actually broke that abatement notice. I'll tell you why this. Just build whatever they want to, heavily impacting the local area. I would expect the planning to take action. Indeed, several years ago, and I don't know which councils were on the committee, but we had a property on Talbot Road that built just under a metre bigger than originally on their plans. They were forced to take that extension down. That came at a great expense to that resident. Does that not apply now? All I'm saying is that there's an example of what this committee is permitted to do. And I would hope that committee would take that action in this case. I firmly believe this development creates a detrimental impact to the local community and its local amenities, and I would ask that this committee ask the club to go away, deliver what they said they were going to produce, and let the residents live again in harmony with this club. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. So that's all the speakers now, so I'll open up the debate to members of the Planning Committee. Councillor Parkin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I've never had an application like this in front of me for the last 28 years. I haven't, honestly. People say, oh, he's put millions into Accrington, into the club. He hasn't abided by the planning law, and he must do. He's not different than anybody else, is the guy. I went on a site visit with the officer before COVID about an extension, what have you. But at the end of the day, they've done nothing. They've just run roughshod over this committee, over this council, which they have. They've just gone on and done it without permission or anything. These people have a right. There's a human rights paragraph on the report there, and you've a right to human rights to noise and what have you. But at the end of the day, I recollect I think there were a pub demolished somewhere in the northwest. I can't remember.
Longreach.
Yeah, and they'd been meant to rebuild it. Obviously, because it was a listed building. But at the end, like I say, at the end of the day, Accrington Stanley are just a loan to themselves, and I will support the residents and I won't support this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cousins. Anyone else? I brought you up before Councillor Pratt. Do you want to
At the
continue?
end of the day, the original planning application asked for ceiling and roof enforcements.
Yeah.
It's not been done. If that had been done, we wouldn't be sitting here today.
Exactly.
So all they need to do is do the roof and the ceiling and sort that door out that's too near the residents. Then, end of story.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cassidy?
Thank you, Chair. I think we need to segregate Accrington Stanley from what to me is an entertainment venue. The entertainment venue is not following the planning rules of the sound installation where the access and egress should be away from the members of the public. And I feel that it should go back to its original. If you look at the original plan, the overlay, you can see there is no impediment on the local residents where the access and egress is. I think they've just gone off their own set of plans and just done what they wanted.
Yeah. Simple. The blind man can see that.
Anyone else? Oh, yes, Councillor Fox.
I just have some concerns. I mean, obviously, it's great we have a football club and we want a football club, but however, we want the residents to be happy as well. And listening to the speakers that we have here today, to me, it sounds like there's a lot more work that needs to be done, working with residents and with the club. And I'm sure at some point this could be met. So it's a difficult one. Yes, we want a club, and yes, we want happy residents. And unfortunately, I feel that that's the position we need to do today. So it's difficult to decide on the planning application. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yes, thank you. No.
Yeah.
Yes.
They should be made to go back to the original plan. That's what they should be made to do. And then we'll get somewhere then. Then I think everybody on a level playing field. That's what I'm on about. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Priddle, do you want to come in there?
Yeah, I think I probably ought to say a few words in the light of what's been said, Chair, if I may. I think, first of all, it's important to point out this is a retrospective planning application, and it was submitted because the development that was originally permitted wasn't developed in the way it should have been,
Yeah.
and we know that. But the council nonetheless have a responsibility to certain planning applications that are put towards it. And on occasion, it is necessary for the council to employ specialist advisors to independently assess planning applications. We did it recently on the retail proposal for the supermarket on Blackburn Road. We've done it in relation to issues around ecology, and in this case we felt because of the technical nature of noise, we believed we needed to employ an acoustic consultant to advise essentially on the merits of the planning application. Now in doing so, they undertook noise measurements on a number of occasions in order to develop a better understanding of the acoustic or noise environment when those venues were in use. And the recommendations that are before you in the report are on the basis of the recommendations and advice that has been made by the independent acoustic consultants to the council. We didn't believe at the time that there was sufficient information available within the submitted information, so we've sought to fill that gap. And so we believe that, subject to the conditions that are recommended in the report, the development could proceed without causing undue noise nuisance to local residents. And that's the basis of the recommendation. So the noise environment has been assessed on the basis of what's being built, okay? Not what was proposed originally. So it's on the basis of what's being built and the fact there are two venues operating, sometimes side by side. So that's the basis of the recommendation that we've made to you. Now, I think the only thing I'd add to that is that the environmental protection regime is a separate regime.
Yes, I'm just going to ask about that, and the noise abatement notice that Councillor Cox referred to.
Now, although there are planning conditions which make recommendations about the level of noise, I understand we were seeking to modify one of those conditions slightly to include a reference to noise at the boundary of the site. It wouldn't necessarily prevent a noise abatement notice being served or enforced, because the means by which they are assessed is different to that set out in the planning condition.
That one that Councillor Cox referred to, is it still in force, or is it just for a short period and then you'd have to serve another if there was another incident?
Well, I mean, I'm not an environmental protection officer, but I understand the noise abatement notice is still in force. But
Yes.
obviously, if there were further complaints received, then the council operates a nighttime noise service.
Yes.
And officers have to go out and assess the level of noise as they experience it. And I think that's the important thing. It's not necessarily with a meter against certain levels, it's the degree of noise that can be audibly heard. So the two regimes are kind of separate but complementary, but it wouldn't, the fact that there are planning conditions that set out noise levels wouldn't necessarily mean that action couldn't be taken if it was considered to be a nuisance.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to say a little bit about the way in which the council had employed noise consultants to advise us as planning officers who have a duty to determine this application and to do it in the best way possible. Thank you, Chair.
I mean, we have the matter raised about the door, that's where it is now. But I would have thought one important point was that we used to call them bouncers, didn't we? The door persons, who I understand have to have a qualification and do regular training. I think it's up to the management to make sure that people are not leaving the premises. We've been told if they want to smoke, they go out the other way on the pitch side. But I mean, when people are leaving, especially if it's 1:30 in the morning, perhaps the management ought to, get the door persons to do some marshalling, or tell people to go quietly, and bear in mind neighbours.
Well, I think the condition that's recommended is the submission of a management plan.
Yes.
Set out the means by which they would do that, and that would be assessed by the planning officers and environmental health officers.
Yeah, but the people want to see
check that it really incorporates what we call best practice in that regard.
No.
So yes, so this is what's referred to here, then the noise management plan, that if this planning approval was approved today, they would have a month in which to submit that plan. Yes, I did clarify with somebody who knows more about hospitality than I do. If people go out for a smoke, apparently that's all they're going out for. They're not allowed to take a drink outside. The long, perhaps the time outside and the noise.
They are.
No heavy petting either.
No
heavy petting.
Right. So we do have we have planning requirements and we have licensing requirements, don't we, with different enforcement regimes overlapping to some extent. Does anybody else want to say anything? Hasn't spoken yet? Yes, Councillor Brennan.
Just a comment really, I just think it would have been a stronger application if we'd have had the detailed noise management plan within it. It's quite difficult, I feel, to vote knowledgeably without having, it's very vague.
Yeah, well, Simon omitted it, didn't he, obviously?
Terms
Because he wouldn't give them everything.
at the moment, just that they will produce
His word for it, it weren't too bad.
and I I think it would be better if that noise management plan had come from the committee.
Yes, I see what you mean. I think quite often now in planning commissions, there are a lot of conditions, and then after there are a lot of things with schemes, landscaping, this and that, and then it's up to then the applicant, they submit these schemes under like a discharge of condition notice, don't they? They have to submit the plan together and see whether it meets the stipulated requirements. Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Just what Councillor Cox said, if we were here today, they'd have done what they should have done.
No, I mean, we do, you know, whilst being sympathetic to the club and wanting to see it prosper and glad that the hospitality suites are doing well, but by the same token, you know, we're a planning committee, aren't we, that has to apply planning law, and, you know, we don't take a very positive view of applicants that do depart from they get a planning permission and then they depart radically from the conditions. There's been others besides Accrington Stanley, but you know, it just happens from time to time with applicants, and you know, if conditions are laid down, that's because they're needed, and the reason for them is always given in the planning approval.
None above the law.
No,
They're not the council, come on.
Councillor Aziz, did you want to speak?
Just again, Simon, if you could, after the noise abatement order was issued, and obviously there was breaches of noise pollution, is that the right thing? Apologies. What steps have they done to adjust the structure, if any? Because I would have expected, given the time scale, has anything happened to potentially adjust any noise pollution?
I don't believe that any change has been made to the buildings themselves to reduce noise. But the thing that we've looked at is the level of noise internally, because that's obviously reflected externally as well. And so the noise limits that we're recommending, the acoustic consultants that we've employed believe that if the internal levels are as set, it shouldn't give rise to nuisance at the closest neighbouring properties. So the main means of control is by limiting the internal noise to the level set there, which is lower than what they've been used to playing.
And how would that be policed? Because ultimately, it's one of those, when it's a nice song, you want to take the volume up.
Essentially through a volume limiter that was actually put onto the equipment that limits the volume of the amplified music that's emitted.
Okay, so there wouldn't be any external, any changes to the building, will be based on the remedy of the equipment rather than adjusting the building. Am I right in assuming?
That's correct.
Okay.
As well as the need to, we recognise the need to manage the means by which the doors are operated, because obviously if doors are left open, that increases external noise levels.
Okay, again, obviously I wasn't involved in the original planning, so forgive me if I ask a very rudimentary question. In terms of when the original planning was granted, was there steps put in place around the acoustics insulation to limit potentially any impact on neighbours?
Yeah.
Was it fulfilled?
Yeah, but they didn't vote.
No, this is why they've submitted this application. This is the fundamental difference between the previous application and this one. And the roof or the ceiling of the development has been built differently to that approved.
Okay.
Presumably they would have had to get building regulation approval as well on that earlier application.
They have had building regulation approval.
Yes.
You also get building regulation approval. You don't necessarily have to be exactly the same as the planning.
Compared to three then.
Councillor Khan.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I actually would be the last one to turn down an application made by Accrington Stanley. Reason being that they bring lots of football to Accrington, which is obviously going through a bad patch at the moment. And but having said that, we went to a planning site visit, if you remember.
Yes, I was there. Yeah.
It was raining really hard. on the day, and we had residents waiting there,
Yes.
and they were also so prepared to do. God knows how many minutes or how long they've been waiting before us. But obviously they have a problem which we need to recognise, and if we take history on board of Accrington Stanley not fulfilling conditions previously, then what chances is there that they will do this time? So on those bases, I'm gonna have to go against this application.
I believe we're not allowed to take into account previous, if an applicant does not comply with conditions of previous applications, I believe we're not allowed to take into account of it.
Can't take that into account.
Yes,
Can't
Councillor.
take that follow last time.
Tell me, what is preventing Accrington Stanley from putting the ceiling and the roof right, as was in the original planning application?
Money.
Spending money.
There you
I
go.
understand there will be significant costs involved in changing
Well,
the
yeah.
design of the roof.
Significant cost. for the
Significant
residents,
cost.
isn't it?
Definitely.
That's it, isn't it?
We have to consider the application before us, and it is as it is.
So
set
that
out
would
in the
solve the
report.
problem, would it not?
Yeah, it would, so deny the one before you.
Well, it
Sounds a
has
good
given
new
rise
one.
to a problem, and this is why we employed the acoustic
Sounds
consultant
solving,
to
and that
But
big
if they did what they
recommendation.
said they were going to do,
Easy, innit?
there wouldn't be a problem, would there?
well, there's nothing to prevent an applicant from submitting a revised scheme in what they've done. And as members of planning committee are aware, we have to consider retrospective applications
You don't
in
have
the
to
same way
reconsider
as
anything, just
normal
say
planning
no.
applications. I understand there are concerns about retrospective planning applications.
Well, there are, yes.
We have to consider them in the same way. I know this sounds interesting to say, but one of the benefits of a retrospective application is that you can actually assess it as it is. And in this case, we've employed acoustic consultants to actually assess the noise as it is generated, as being
If you can say
generated.
no, I'm going to pull it down straight
So
away.
the recommendations are made on the basis of the noise levels that have been experienced against best practice.
Then maybe fine them as well.
So it's the difference when you said about concerns. It's the difference really between an applicant not complying with conditions of the planning department serving a planning enforcement notice, or the alternative is what we're presented with now, as we have been in some other scenarios with other applicants, where the applicant submits a retrospective application to kind of justify what they actually built under the last permission, rather than what they were supposed to build.
Yes.
Something like that, yes.
That's how
With
our building
respect,
inspectors.
Mr. Pregall, if they'd have insulated it, like they should have done, and then they'd have took the noise levels then, I'm sure they'd have been far lower than what they are now. But they didn't do it,
No, they
and
didn't.
they knew what they were doing, so there's no excuse.
There's always too near residents as well.
Of course it is.
Of course
You know, you've got to
they
think
are.
of these
They
people
were
here.
not stupid.
They've lived there for years.
Of course they are.
They were there before football club were there. But at the end of the
The
day,
football's gone as well.
you know, it's just, no, I can't
Mr.
support it.
PET.
Thank you.
That's where it's ultimately heading.
And
isn't it?
Councillor Cassidy.
A final point, Chair.
Yes.
You're saying about putting a noise restrictor in. Who's going to monitor the noise restrictor? Who's going to have the control of the noise restrictor? Because I have one at the venue that I work
Yes,
at.
you manage hospitality facilities elsewhere,
And
yes.
I can adjust that accordingly. So who's going to, if you will, who's going to be in control of the button?
Who's going to
So
have the
presumably it would be the management responsibility,
Yes.
and they would have to delegate to a member of staff or whoever's on duty.
Not gonna wait for
Like
his own
the
plans.
level of competence I know about. Sorry.
So I don't know a great deal about it, but from my discussions with environmental protection colleagues, it is the system won't be calibrated by an independent person, and then it's locked and sealed after
That's
that.
good. As long as I hear that, that's fine.
So it becomes, sort of programmed in, and then that's
essentially kind of
at that level then,
yeah.
unless somebody programs it otherwise, yes. So, would anybody like to propose that did you want to speak? Sorry, no.
Yeah,
Councillor.
just like clarification, you mentioned that a consultancy has been in and done some nice work. However, am I right in believing at this time, due to this retrospective, that they're limited to a certain time they can have noise anyway?
That you what, sorry?
That they're limited, up to and there's just people, so the net is not going to be an accurate. Am I right?
Is it not a lower level after?
After, it's after 11 and 12, it's.
The premises licence, I think, extends to the same time that's suggested within the conditions, so I think that's about 1:30.
Yeah, the opening hours are, it's 11 o'clock on 3 nights and 1:30 AM on the other side.
Is that how it's
Wednesday.
client today?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
No. Would somebody like to propose then that we accept the officer's recommendation for approval?
No, just.
Councillor Dawson, yes,
I'm
you've
not
spoken.
moving anything, I'm simply saying that because I've declared an interest, a peculiar interest, albeit it's not a financial interest, that I'll abstain, which is probably the proper way to do it.
Okay then, yes. Well, I will propose with some reservations of anything needing to be observed that we accept the officer's recommendation for approval. Do I have a seconder? No, so no vote taken on that. So would anybody like to propose then that we go against the officer's recommendation and we go for refusal of this application?
Somebody propose it.
Something like
Go on, Dave.
refusal?
Go on, Dave. We're going to Yeah, good man, good man.
Yes, we have, yes,
Good man.
planning.
Get in there, Dave.
Were
Right.
you proposing there, Councillor Parker?
Yeah.
Yes.
Who's going to second
Anybody
it?
want to second that?
Go on, Kath. Go on, Kath. Who's second it?
Councillor
Get in
Pratt.
there, Kath.
So,
The reason being, Chair,
Yes.
we haven't fulfilled
Now let's
the,
vote on it.
so-called new planning permission, the first planning permission, what they should have done and they haven't done.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Right. So we've got a proposer and a seconder for refusal of the application.
Chair, I think there's some concern here that isn't really to planning reason.
I think there is. You know, they proposed and seconded. Let's not be breaking the rules of the
members
planning.
think about the harm that's likely to arise from the proposed development. And I think in that case, you know, it would be in relation to the potential noise that would arise from the development.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Change it. Well, they'd say no anyway.
So subject to that, then that would be a valid
Yeah, I mean,
reason for
we can't refuse a planning application on the basis that an applicant hasn't complied
with
with
an
the
earlier
previous
one. No.
planning commission, because that's the reason why they've submitted the new
Yes, this is a
application.
new, yes.
But you have to consider the harm arising from the proposed development.
Yes.
And in this case, I would suggest, given the conversation we've had around the table, that relates to noise.
Yes.
So members would need to articulate, you know, the harm they believe would arise from the development.
We've got human rights involved here, haven't we? So
Yes, we always have the human rights paragraph, don't we, which we just sort of don't really take any notice of, but it's always there.
Black and white.
So we've got a proposer and a seconder then for recommending refusal.
Can we just clarify the reason?
Yes.
First, is it being moved that it's on the basis that the development would give rise to adverse noise impacts on local
On the
residents?
neighbouring residents, yes.
Sounds like fair enough.
They'd be against the human rights.
And it's against the human rights.
Yeah, I mean, planning law kind of incorporates protection of human rights through the sort of policy framework that seeks to protect local amenity. Now, I don't expect members to have a kind of working knowledge of local planning policy. So what I normally say is if members are minded to refuse something on something like noise, officers would then complete the reason for refusal with reference to relevant policy.
Yes.
So we do have policies in relation to noise, and there's a noise framework in national policy that we can have reference to. So, you know,
Because residential amenities can cover other things as well, sometimes can't be dust
yes,
and all kinds of
there's a
things.
range of factors.
Particularly the noise.
We do have policies around noise, and if members are minded to refuse it for that reason, then I would suggest that we then add on the relevant policy references.
Yes.
That sounds neat to me.
policy
Yeah.
there, and then
Yes.
the core strategy.
ENV7 of the core strategies are one of them. I think there's one of the development management DPGs that's set out in the report as well.
Okay, fine. Well, you first did it, you seconded it. Let's vote on it.
Right, so subject to that then. So all those in favour of the refusal, which we've just had proposed and seconded, raise your hands, please.
Come on, who's refusing?
That's five for the refusal. Against, well, I'll have to vote because I voted to approve it in the first place, so I'll have to vote it, yeah. And the others presumably abstentions. Will you raise your hand if you're abstaining, please? So we've got 7
Does that mean it's not both
abstentions,
ways?
5 in favour of the refusal,
Sitting on the fence.
and against.
But it's still favourable.
Yeah, as in the motion's passed.
Yeah.
The abstentions just
Yeah, it's like
typically don't
sitting on the fence, isn't it? Like not actually.
More abstentions than there are. Of those who voted, 5 are yes. So it's refused then? It's refused then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we should have voted one way or the other.
Right, so that's, so
I'm going to
thank
pass
you
it
very
over,
much
though.
for
I'm
your
going to say vote one way or the other.
Not on planning.
Oh, they don't know.
journalists and
Sort of independent.
Nobody whipping out. All right, well, thank you. Are you happy that you got it? You got it like overturned?
We're not against the making money, but we've got to realise that
So what does that mean? Like, does that mean you're going to like basically like go around on your way home now and say you're going to have to shut because you're not open? All right, so you're not bothered as long as they like stick to what they originally said. No, they haven't done yet. Hopefully this will force their hand or what? No, which is fair enough. Which is fair enough. I can't hear it in my garden. Why should you have to hear it from yours? No, it's not fair, is it? It's not fair. Yeah, it's not fair. You're allowed to enjoy your property as you see fit, aren't you? So, hey, well done you. You know. Well, Miles won't be all the happy, but what can you do, eh? Can't win them all, can you, Miles? You'll know he's got the prophecy as well, obviously.